I want to tell you how I use Loom, a video recording software, in order to transfer institutional knowledge. So I believe this is so important for nonprofits because a lot of times information just lives in one person's head. And we don't mean it to be that way, but it just happens. So if you've ever inherited a role where someone tells you before, oh, well, this person just knew everything before you, sorry, and you ask if it's written down and it's not, well, then this video is for you because this is a great way to institutionalize knowledge. We talk about that a lot. And we don't often say what that means. And I think people think that it means like writing and reading these big, thick manuals. And so I want to start off with a couple things. First, I want to separate policies and procedures from how to, right? Policies and procedures are like, how should you do a thing? This is like, how it should be processed. And then the actual how to is much more about the nitty gritty, the rubber meets the road. Like, here's how you actually do this thing. Now, policies and procedures shouldn't change that often if you can help it, right? You want to update them, but you don't want to be changing them every time some software updates how they do this, every time QuickBooks changes where something is at, right? Your policies and procedures stay. Your how-to manuals, those things can change. Now, when I say manual, I don't just mean like what you might be thinking of a document and it has a bunch of text and you just read through it all. Yes, some people learn like that. It's not a bad thing to have. However, you can always generate a manual from a video. So I always suggest to nonprofits to use videos to record detailed specific processes so that then, like, even just for something simple, someone is out sick and someone else needs to run payroll, or someone is gone, they got injured, or they're at a conference and someone else needs to know how to file a certain thing, how to do some process. If you leave videos behind kind of like breadcrumbs, people are able to get what it is that you do and they're able to reproduce it. Now, why I think videos are so great is because a lot of people learn both visually and audio. So a video catches both of those boxes. If there are people who really learn by text and only by text, you can always just take everything that you recorded into a video, plug it into ChatGPT, and have it write you a manual. That's simple, but you can't go the other way around. You can't start with a boring, big, long manual and then have ChatGPT make you a video that will be intuitive and make sense to either your future self or future employees who are doing the role you're doing now. So this is an incredibly useful framework, I think, creating videos instead of written manuals for very specific how-to tasks. Now, I personally love Loom. This is the tool that I'm recording on right now. There are many ways to do this. It doesn't have to be this, but this is how I use Loom to record it. So I'm going to walk through it and hopefully give you some ideas so that you can start taking your institutional knowledge and putting it in a repository where future people can see it, not just keeping it all in your head. So we're going to start with basically how to record a Loom. So usually on the left-hand side of the screen, there's like a little bar and there's a way you can click record. I'm in Chrome right now, and there's also up here a particular little icon for Loom. It's blue because they were recently bought by Atlassian. So it's no longer purple, and it just kind of looks like a little flower burst. And you click on that, and that can also trigger starting a video. So that's how you start. Then from there, you get to choose, how do I record the screen? Am I going to be small in the corner? Am I going to be big in the corner? Am I going to take the full screen? And also, which screen do I want? What tab do I want? All those kind of things. Once you determine those things, then you click Start Recording. Now, what it comes with Loom is something that's predetermined. There's a countdown. It says 3, 2, 1 in the middle of the screen, and then it starts recording. So you have a moment. Now, Loom also has editing capabilities, so I think it's very important to remember that you shouldn't feel pressured to record a perfect video, especially when you're just doing an institutional knowledge for processes. Now, there may be a time when you say maybe the wrong instructions, and that's important to edit out. But again, you can edit that out on the end. You don't have to start recording the video again. I find that a lot of people, they resist doing videos because they feel like it has to be perfect. And I think that what's beautiful about Loom is it's low friction. It's really simple. As long as you have an internet connection that can do it and you have some light so people can see your face and a mic good enough to hear you, you have what you need to do a Loom for internal purposes. This software is generally marketed as being for people who want to communicate asynchronously, so across different time zones or different times, different places. But I like to use it to record information for people, so it feels like you're talking to them no matter what time. So there are these evergreen tutorials essentially. And as a note on not being perfect, you just saw my cat jumped off my lap, right? So this is just to further show that this doesn't have to be this absolutely polished thing. What's most important is that what you say connects to the people listening in the future and that it makes sense to them. So with Loom, you get all these different videos recorded. There is a free and a paid version. And I suggest that all nonprofits get a paid version so that you can really take advantage of the features and so you can have a large library worth of videos. Once you're done with the videos, they stay in the cloud on Loom and you can take links and you can put them in certain places. Now, where you store these links is going to be up to you. Some people might have a document that has a bunch of different links to different things. Maybe it's grouped by processes, like things like how to run payroll or how to categorize expenses in QuickBooks or how to print an ID tag for a new client, something like that, right? And they could maybe be organized by who might need to use them. However you do it is fine, honestly. And I should say, however you do it that works for people is fine, right? Because information is only as good as people's ability to retrieve it. And that's not just what's reasonable to retrieve, it's how people actually do it. So if you find that you're making all these videos and no one ever watches them, then clearly it's not working. But if you find that there's a way and a rhythm where here's how you put the links, here's how people watch the videos, maybe they're a series when somebody comes in new to a position, that's great. If you find something that works, stick with it. Now, the reason why I believe in this so strongly is because I believe that passing on institutional knowledge is part of how we future-proof our organizations. Because when turnover happens, and it always happens, it's difficult. There's this period where people are trying to learn these new things and someone else is coming on and maybe you knew about the turnover coming, somebody leaving, maybe you didn't. Regardless, you should have all of your staff, including leadership and even board members, maybe depending on what they do. You should have them regularly recording videos of processes that they do that are detailed so that in the event that they need to step down, they leave, they move on, etc., someone else can come in. So whether that leave is planned or whether it's a surprise, whether it's intentional or accidental, right? All of these things make it so that your organization is stronger and can weather the storm of turnover. Because when we stop thinking that turnover might not happen and we just hope that, okay, we trained this person, now they know it, we don't have to think about it again for years, maybe 5, 10 years. That line of thinking, it's really just a myth now. So get it out of your head. Plan that you will need to teach people how to do your job on a regular basis. If you plan for that, I swear to you, it will be so easy to have someone sub in for you. You also won't have so much pressure when you know that you can just tell someone, oh, I'm sick today. Can you please print a new ID badge? There's a folder and it has links to all the videos. Find the one that says ID badge. And here's how you know how to do it. Boom, simple, done. What's nice about a Loom video too is you can record it again whenever something changes. And it's really easy to record, right? Like I said earlier, you click on the side of the screen, you do this, you do that, and then you're done. Instead of having to rewrite a manual and then somebody has to read the whole manual again, then they have to read the part that changed because some of it didn't and some of it did. That is just a recipe for gathering dust. It's just going to sit there. So really what your manual should be about are the things we talked about at the beginning, policies and procedures, and then you have how-tos. And like I said, I suggest videos. So within Loom, you have all these different ways that you can do things. And I make sure to try and name each video something descriptive so that when somebody goes and searches in here, they can actually search. Or if it needs to be descriptive so that when someone clicks on it, they know they're in the right place. Now, I have a lot of videos here for the work I do with Bellingham Sea Feast, which is a lot of site and logistics work. So there's a lot of maps. And then I filmed all these different explanations for the maps with a video and a Loom. So I'm going to click on one right now, just so we kind of get an idea. And there's going to be me in the corner. And basically, in this video, I went through the map, I said hi to everyone, and then I, with my mouse, kind of explained each part of what was on the map. I talked about who was where you would find bathrooms, all this stuff. Now, of course, all of this was also written out for people, but what I found was that people weren't reading what was written nearly as much as they were watching the videos. So here's an example. So I just wanted to give you kind of an example. This is what they would see when they watch it. And of course, you're watching this now, so you would know this. But I find it useful for even something that is as, I don't know, it's opposite of evergreen, right? This isn't a process that's going to be the same every year. This is a map I'm explaining. We used it one time at one festival, and then every year it's going to be different. And I did a different video for every section. So Loom can also be a really useful tool for not just passing on institutional knowledge, but disseminating detailed knowledge when you really want people to engage with it more than they might with a written explanation or even an email. Honestly, people like watching videos. It might be easier to do this. So that's like what a basic Loom looks like. You can go back to Loom and then you can see all these different things that you have. There is a little bit of a lag time sometimes between when things load and when you start again. So with all of these, you can show people different processes. An example might be if you want to break down some document you wrote that is a policy, right? And maybe a policy and procedure, and it stays, but maybe you want to have some explanation around it. A Loom is a perfect tool for that. So this is example of a functional expense analysis and allocation schedule for a nonprofit. This is a template. But let's say this was the allocation schedule at my nonprofit, and I wanted people to know what to do the next year because maybe I wouldn't be there. Or maybe someone who's taking maternity leave knows that someone else is going to have to step into their role and do this functional expense analysis. So what they could do is go through the document, not reading every word, but they could cover core sections and they could maybe even talk about background. Like when we were figuring this out, we debated amongst ourselves on the leadership team, X, Y, and Z, and we settled on this, right? And that can sometimes give people a lot of important context. So if they come into a position and they're like, I don't like how this is, I want to change it, they'll know what you went through in your minds to get to this outcome that they see, so that if they do want to change it, they can take that. That's really the essence of institutional knowledge, right? It isn't just the thing. It isn't just this document isn't institutional knowledge. A policy and procedure manual isn't institutional knowledge. It's that and how you arrived at those things. That's the part that people take with them when they go. And that's something that a video recording and a Loom can really help you retain and capture. So somebody might go through this. They might give some examples, more examples than maybe are in this document. They might give a story, a brief targeted story that really helps someone understand. They might say, you know, we had this thing about these different fiscal groups and program Y has this particular issue with it. Keep an eye on that in the future because maybe program Y will need to be split into two fiscal groups down the road if grant A gets more funding in the future. Something like that, right? Those kind of small pieces of info, just little asides, can really change, honestly, someone's life who's in this role next after you, because all of a sudden, instead of having to call or ask you about every little thing, which may not be possible because you may not be there anymore, this way you've recorded it. Now, it's important that you want to make sure that they are clear and concise, and you can split them up into smaller ones. But basically, this is my idea for how you can pass on institutional knowledge. And I would love to hear how you pass on institutional knowledge at your nonprofit right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll be adding more tips weekly.